What's coming off around here?
If you guys playing railroad anymore today, there's a landslide, a new cut.
My brother was here the other day, and I was starting to explain to him what I was working on in terms of the short detection when the wheels of a locomotive short the tracks together. And I realized in the discussion that I was having a real hard time explaining it to him myself. You know, he's a pretty sharp guy, and so I must be doing a hideous job in terms of explaining why would there be a short on my turntable. And so I thought I'd just try and take a shot at just explaining a little more about it to maybe for those that aren't as familiar with the electronics of model railroading as you know, somebody who's been working with it for years. Not me, but you know, like my club members, for instance. This would be so juvenile they wouldn't even want to hear it. But there's possibly somebody out there that would like to know. So I thought I'd put together this little display and try to explain it in a little bit better manner that's understandable for anybody that would have that background in the model railroading electronics. So this is the turntable, and this is the main coming into the turntable. And here's a locomotive, and it wants to turn around. So this is the controller, which I've drawn here. I think I'll get a pointer. Oh, not going to have. Oh, here it is. Okay, so this is the controller here, and this is a little depiction of a DC motor. It's the kind of thing you would find in any model railroad beginner's level type loop. And so the motor, obviously, on many of the locomotives built with just the DC motor, they have like a little switch that can switch back and forth between, change the polarities on the motor so it'll go forward or backwards. And I think everybody can grasp that. So the controller is outputting two sides of a voltage, let's call it that, a high and a low side. And we'll call the B and the A the two sides. And I'm not going to say which is which. I'm just going to say that it's a B and an A. And then you see the little M's here on the B and the A are talking about the main. So this locomotive can advance across that track in a forward position, provided, of course, the switch is set to the forward position. So the locomotive is moving forward on the B and A of the main voltage. And so it's turning the motor at whatever level you've set it. Like you recall, you adjust the voltage level with the train controller, and the more voltage you have, the faster the train goes. So let's say then that, well, we've got to be careful here because there's got to be a gap. So let's make a gap between the turntable and the main. And so I've got, I hope you can see this. On the turntable, we've got a B and an A too, but there's a little T there for turntable. And why that is that the turntable is powered from underneath, comes up from underneath, and there are two wires coming over that ride. They're offset slightly, and they ride on two separate conductive small cylinders that are made of copper. And those copper cylinders that the wires are in contact with will continuously conduct the B and the A of the turntable, regardless of the position of the turntable. Okay? So it's always going to be B and A like that. And unless you have some kind of a switch to switch it. So I put this switch here. I made this little switch drawing. So we've got an A and a B coming in, ostensibly from the controller. So maybe we can call it A of the main and B of the main. And then from here, the switch is in a position, click, so that the voltage is putting out A of the track and B of the track from A of the main and B of the main, like that. So they match. So being that they match, and there's a little gap there, let's keep that gap. By God, I short it right out. Okay, so the train comes across and it goes on to, okay, so now it's on. And it's happy because the polarities match. I mean, the B's B and the A's A. So everything's happy. Now we turn the table. Now remember, the table polarity on the two rails on that turntable, they don't change. So we rotate it around, and now in this position, we'll move the train for a second, we've got A of the turntable facing B of the main, which is potentially a problem because when the train, which has steel wheels, you know, it's got a motor in it and everything. So when it comes back across the gap, it now is shorting the rails here with the rails over here. And because they're actually different polarities now, this is A and B, it actually basically is dead short. So therein lies the short. Now on the switch side here, so you can see it, I'll move it over here. So on the switch side, I can change the position of the switch. That's the point of the switch. And I'll switch it to this side. And now, when you look at the track here, A of the main is now going to B of the track. And B of the main in this position is going to A of the track because I've got the switch set to this side. So when we bring and we turn it around, as we had just done, that becomes A of the main now becomes, or A of the track becomes B of the main. So in this switch position, the polarities match. So the reason why we would throw that switch, we could anticipate that the train's going to go back on and we'd have to do that, which is tedious and probably error prone. Or we can detect that short when the train goes across the gap. We see a short, and if we had some really cool circuitry that responds to the short very quickly, then it could switch the polarity automatically, do the switch thing, but electrically. So the objective for me, and what I'm setting about to do, is to make a smart switch that detects the short and does just exactly that. So that because the polarities coming up to the rails here are kind of fixed by the two wires, then what feeds those two wires, as I've shown with the switch, needs to be some kind of means to correct the polarities so that when the locomotive does this, it automatically switches and the locomotive will just continue. Otherwise, we create a short and the controller, which more than likely has some kind of short protection in it, one would hope, will shut down. So there's a certain speed or time, let's call it time, controller shutdown. And that time has to be longer than the switch, so that the switch can detect the short and change the polarities quicker than the time for the controller to shut down, because they're going to both see the short. Now you can't hide a short from the rails, and it's going to be there. So the onus then is on this smart switch I'm talking about to do that switch quickly enough where the controller doesn't shut down everything. I hope that makes it a little bit more clear. And if not, let me know in a comment. I'm trying to dispel some of the confusion that may arise about why would you need to have this complicated kind of circuitry on the turntable. And most model railroading, it wouldn't be required. It's not necessary. So in this instance, yes, we need to do something. And I'll explain what my approach is and how, and I'll build the circuit here and demonstrate what I've done, and hopefully it'll work. Well, see, I was thinking about having some hobos in the boxcar, so I got a couple of guys to pose for me. There we go. Here they are. I'll put them in here. This one over here. Get down here. Well, it's a really nice day outside for you hobos to be watching me labor on these video edits. What do you hobos think, anyway?
Boy, it's looking at labor like that. It's made a hobo out of me. Can you imagine? On a day like this?
The trouble with labor is the work that's connected with it. Now, I figured that work is for workers. So why bother your head about it?
Well, I guess these guys just don't approve of that labor.